I'm Helen Millar, and this is Head to Heart Living with Cacao Calling. This channel is all about how to live more from your heart and less from your head, so that you can bring yourself into balance and are able to connect to all of your multi-dimensional wisdom that doesn't just come from the mind, the intellect, the ego, but incorporates your deepest intuition and your connection to all that is. And that powerhouse lies in the heart and our unconditional love for all that is. If you think the world is a bit of a mess right now, I would say deeper self-love and compassion is where we can start the healing, and that lies in this space. And that is what these videos are about. Different ways, different knowledge, different approaches to move from living completely or more or less mostly up here, or placing all the value on thoughts and decision processes that come from here, down to balancing yourself out with the wisdom that you get through your heart center. If that sounds good, then please subscribe, like, hit the bell, put any comments below in subjects that you would like me to cover in, or areas that you're suffering with, and I will see what I can do. Last week's video was absolutely on poverty consciousness. That was a request from somebody in their comments, so I definitely read them and respond to them. This video is all about practical tips about how to heal, and specifically why the ocean and the sea is so important. It's going to be really crucial in the next few years that we know how to bring ourselves into alignment naturally, how to reset, restore, rebalance ourselves internally, mind, body and spirit. That doesn't cost a fortune, and the little things that we can do every day, as well as places that we can go to just nurture and nourish ourselves, get out of the overwhelm and the fear and not knowing where to trust. The sea and the ocean, water essentially, big bodies of water hold keys to this. We know this, it's in our DNA. We know this as children, we know this as adults. This video is going to be breaking it down into 7, 8, I mean it's water after all, points, and these are going to be talking about where these things that we do every day come from, and how to harness them, use them and bear them in mind for as and when you need them. Please share this to anybody else who you think could do with this right now, and if not, you might want to save it as a video to come back to, and to do that you just hit the like button, and then you can easily find it in your library. If that sounds of interest, see me on the other side. Okay, so I'm making this video right now because I was just, I'm a Londoner born and bred. I've always lived in a big city, although I used to spend a lot of time for work working in nature and flying around the world to different places, or volunteering, or taking myself off to do some deep work in some jungles. And all of that this year has stopped. And also we have had, you know, the 5G network laid out. We have had loads more time on screen, as all the things that we used to do in person have been put on screen. And this started to really affect my ability to concentrate, to focus, to feel lonely. I was really missing human touch, human connection, and it was starting to really wear me down on a very, very slow, like the boiling the frogs analogy. You know, you can't put a frog in boiling water, it just jumps out. But if you slowly heat the water, you can cook the frog because it doesn't notice. It was that kind of building up in my system, and I was starting to feel really down. So I took myself off to the sea for well, I was supposed to be only for a couple of days, but I kept on extending because I could really feel the nourishing and the nurturing and the restoration that was happening for me. You know, getting my mojo back while I was there. And I really wanted to break this down because I did a deep dive into what it is that the ocean and the sea give us, apart from the obvious like clean air and things like that. So the first point is it reminds us of our connection to all. So if Buddhist philosophy talks about our life being like a wave, and waves come in all different shapes and sizes. Some of them are like fun and you just want to woo on. Some of them you want to be on a lilo. Some of them you want to surf, some of them are really scary and you want to run and swim away from. And yet every wave, no matter what it's like, is still a part of the ocean. And yet we, when we're waves, you can think of this as our life force, we forget that we're connected to the ocean. We forget that we have this interconnectedness of all things. And that has become a prime concern in the way that we live our lives and the way that society is. And some of the things that are not sustainable in how we live are because we have become forgetful of our connection to each other. So this is working on us whilst when we're by the ocean. It's also the essence and where we're moving more towards, and where this next century, especially after the 21st of December this year, which some people may have, you'll know as solstice, whether you're in like winter or summer, depending on which hemisphere you're in, but also some people calling the event. The Mayan calendar, maybe some people have said was wrong. It wasn't 2012, the dawning age of Aquarius. It's actually happening this year as we move into 2021. Anyway, all we need to know is that 2020 has been a game-changing year. We can see that. Everyone's experienced it. It's been a global experience for the first time ever, really. I mean, if you think about the last thing that people might say that about was the Second World War, not everybody was affected in the way that everybody has been affected this year. And this has really been a chance for us to understand more about who we are on a really deep level. And some people have taken that opportunity and run with it, and some people have yet to. And it's no judgment, and people have different commitments and different life situation. But during the next few years, everybody globally is going to have to really evaluate what's important to them and how they come into balance with themselves, each other and the world as we find new ways of living. This isn't meant to sound scary at all. It is, but watching this video will help you unpack some things. It will come into relevance at other points, and it will allow you to start thinking in this way, because quite quickly some quite big changes are going to have to happen on the global stage, and some of those things talked about now, some of those are not going to happen, but other things will. I don't want to go too much into that, it's a whole nother video. But this is going to be really about what you do to feel better, be better, and get a broader perspective so that you don't go into overwhelm, and that you're able to surf the waves of change, which humans are generally not that great at, right? We don't like change. We like our routines and our security. So we're being called to develop more spiritual and emotional wisdom and maturity during this phase. Okay, so when we are by the ocean, we have this metaphysical, metaphorical appearance of these waves. The sea, it's constantly in flux, and it's telling us that we are all part of the whole. A drop of water might seem really insignificant, but that drop contains the entire ocean, and the entire ocean is nothing but drops. It is indivisible, and it is this contradiction, as it were, and it's the contradictions in life that we are going to have to get better at holding, whereas at the moment we see all the polarity and no but happening, especially on social media, rather than yes and that's going to be really helpful, moving our mindset into that territory of yes and that leads me into the why, and I talk about this a lot, is nature and nature's ability to help us heal. So understanding the eternity of life, and of course this is very Buddhist, and I understand this, the idea of past life, of reincarnation, that our life, our identity, my ego is Helen, this will end, this will come to, my deathbed, my physical body will disintegrate, but my soul that is higher and bigger than me will continue. And it is the eternity of life which is represented by the ocean, these waves. If your life is a wave, it hits the shore, it smashes, that's a great word, it smashes onto the shore, And then it pulls back, and in the pulling back it becomes part of the ocean once more, as the drops become again part of this huge body of the ocean, which is unfathomable and contains all sorts of things, from sharks to, you know, we know more about the dark side of the moon than we do the bottom of the ocean. Isn't that exciting? And some of the creatures, oh well, anyway. But that is also about life and death. Like, how much do we know? How much can you ever know? How many dimensions are there? How many past lives have you had? Like, this information is not, you know, it's not Googleable, is it? It's not search engineable, DuckDuckGoable. No preference, no branding in these videos, I'll have you know. Okay, point 1 is understanding the wave, the ocean being the wave and the wave being the ocean. The second point is actually how powerless the ocean can make us feel, which might seem contradictory. Again, there's always a lot of contradiction in truth, I find. Take that for a sentence to meditate on. So, oh, well, you got to make, there's no audience here, so I've got to make myself laugh, right? Okay, so the powerlessness of the ocean is so important for us to remember. I remember having this experience really profoundly. The first time I went to the jungle, I was sleeping on my own under a mosquito net, essentially on floorboards, with just a mosquito net around me, and I had a machete. That was it, on my own in the middle of the Amazon jungle. And anything can get you there. And when it goes dark in the Amazon, when you're not near any electric light, when there's no electricity there, and you can't see your hand in front of your face, the first few nights I was absolutely petrified, because as soon as it goes dark, the jungle gets so loud, and you can hear all the animals screeching at each other and roaring at each other. And I was like, little Londoner me, lying there like, what am I? However, by the end of my stay, like, that was just like listening to, the most amazing symphony. And I had learned, by living so simply in such abundance of nature, that I'm just, another little cog. More important than an ant in the midst of this absolutely incredible ecosystem that is life. However, when we get into the city, or it doesn't have to be the city, like just when we get our ego fed and it's all about us and and you three people eating stuff and chucking wrappers on the floor, and just like this consumption of no understanding of our humility within this. When we're by the ocean, we get reintroduced to the magnificence of the sea and how small we are in comparison to that. And then if you just take this as just one planet in the billions, trillions, and the cosmos, and how little we know, there's a liberation in that. Because we put so much pressure on ourselves to do, to achieve, to be in control. This is a false narrative. We are never really in control. What we are in control of is how we allow our emotions to affect us, how we navigate, how we become. Our life's journey really is about how we learn to master our mind, so that we direct the huge power we do have into what we focus on and how we think and feel, because that's how reality is created. However, we forget that bit, and we think that we can, nail and achieve, and we forget that it's a co-creating relationship with the universe. We think we can, what it's like. We're thinking, why can't I just Google everything? Why can't I know everything at the drop of a pin? And because we have this technology around us, it gives us a false sense of security, which is why we can get so flawed by illness coming in. It's why so many people have had such profound, their sense of security in the world shaken by what's happened in 2020, because it feels like no one has the answer, but actually, and because of the way that's been presented to us, but actually when we're by the ocean, it's a very natural experience to just look at the vastness of it. And there is, again, a contradiction, a liberation in realizing how small you are, and yet there's healing in that. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. On to the next point. I think I numbered them wrong. On to the next point. I've told you in other videos, numbers are not my strong point, apart from numerology, but that's a different thing. Like, just, Do we need bullet points here? I don't know. Just dots. We'll have dots, not numbers. Imagine me dotting this. Next dot. Water represents emotion. Water, if you think about tarot cards, if you think about astrology, if you think about, it's universally known that water represents emotion. You can see that as the way we cry, or the way that we salivate when we get excited. That fluids and water are to do with emotion. The moon affects our emotion. Between 80 and 95% of our body is water, and so this is why, one of the reasons that it's quite tangible why people follow or start to get interested in astrology. The moon affects the tide. Most of our body is water, so where the moon's position is can affect our emotional state. More 999 or whatever your emergency number calls are made on a full moon. You know, these things are really physical. They really affect us. So when you think about when you are with water, it can allow you to connect to your emotion. And why that is so important is because our emotions, like water, need to flow. Our emotions are a reaction. They're a gauge to let us know whether something is good or bad for us, essentially, whether we should be doing more or less of it. They allow us to allow energy to move and be processed. That's why, you know, grieving is such an important thing to give yourself time to do. As soon as we try and suppress emotion, that energy doesn't then have somewhere to go, and so it gets stuck in the body. And you know, emotion gets trapped in the body. This has been studied scientifically, but it's also ancient wisdom from different cultures. And this is also why massage and things like this can be so helpful, because it starts to shift energy. This is why dancing, running, working out is so helpful, especially, you know, and when we're swimming, we are moving the emotion. We are being within the water. We're allowing the waters to flow. Water represents emotion, and there is so much to be processed this year. It has brought up so much in us, and yet we live within a paradigm or a social construct where traditionally, through the eyes of the patriarchy, showing and expressing emotion is seen as a weakness, which is just so unhelpful, really. It's just really, really unhelpful. And if you want to sort of go down the route of why people are getting sicker and things like that, you can look at unsuppressed emotion. Again, that is such deep work. There is so much to talk about there. I'm just going to lightly touch on it now. But this is one reason why. And please, if you feel emotion coming up, allow yourself to creatively express that. If you feel anger coming up, find a healthy outlet for that anger. No emotion is good or bad. It's how you use it. And, you know, it's what makes us human. So many friends I have who, you know, if they cry and then they go, I'm sorry. It's like, why are you apologizing? What a beautiful gift for me to be able to witness your vulnerability. Vulnerability is how we bond with people. You know, this is what makes us human. This is where we form our connection. And it takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable in public. It's, you know, and it's what actors get paid to do, is show their vulnerability. You wouldn't want an actor who never expresses anything. What's the point? And that is why we tell stories. That is how and why we connect. So see your emotional journey as your, you know, your being, the powerful person that you are, and allow water to affect you if it as and how it does, because it's energy moving, and energy, like money as an embodiment of it, likes to move. If it gets stuck, if it gets stagnant, then it's not working with the natural rhythms of life. And that is what the ocean brings up for us, the natural rhythms of life, not the 24/7 no needing to sleep kind of mentality. Just have another coffee rather than listening to your body, listening to the natural rhythms. I want to make it's about the horizon and how healing and important it is, because we essentially are these huge multidimensional spiritual beings. You can roll your eyes if you want to, but we are, and we have been trapped put it, well, not trapped because we chose to come down, tried very hard to come down. You know, we're in these physical bodies, we've survived this far, especially in this really challenging time. We're doing great, well done you, still here, still with me. And that can feel very, depending on how sensitive you are, you can feel really, and you may not know why, because when we incarnate, we go through the veil of forgetfulness and we forget that we're these multi-dimensional spiritual beings, and but it can feel very difficult to be in a human body. Okay, so that is a sense of limitation, and why I believe that having huge expanse, huge vistas are so important. Like, why do people pay a lot of money to have houses with or rooms with amazing views and not just of a wall or a little, you know, of the car park? Is because there is healing to be had in seeing space and scope, because it reminds us of our space and our scope and all that we are capable of, and how big, you know, blue sky thinking, like how big and creative we can be. And that is going to be so needed as we find new ways to be and live as human beings that value and treasure life, as this infrastructure, this unsustainable infrastructure, falls away. This healing is going to be so necessary, to spend time where you can see big, get perspective by seeing the enormity of the potential of available. This is what Horizon gives us. And there is so much in the system that tries to keep us limited and thinking small and separated, and, you know, all the sort of contradictory thinking that you have to jump through certain hoops or the world doesn't work for you. You've got to have this kind of moneyed education in order to get that kind of job. That kind of job is going to equal happiness, and if you don't get it, or this kind of money, you know, all this limited thinking limits what we think we're capable of. And we are not that. We are capable of so much more. And the next few years are going to be a real opportunity for us. There's a way of viewing it, rather than a way of, you know, viewing it through suffering, to find out more about, oh, I'm getting goosebumps when I say this, that is ways to get that when it's significant, a way for us to find out more of us, more of what we're capable of. You know, diamonds only become diamonds when they're under pressure. But if somebody says to you, do you want to go under pressure? You generally say no, but some people are aware that they focus and, you know, really achieve when they're under pressure. But of course, you know, horses for courses, but depending on the dexterity and maturity of our mental makeup, it will define on how much we're able to do this. And this is why I'm suggesting spending time by the sea is going to be really helpful for you to be able to call on all these qualities that you naturally have inside you, because you are amazing. Only a couple more points left. This one is really, and, you know, for those of you who don't resonate with all the sort of spiritual stuff that I'm talking about, the very real healing that is possible with salt water. Every time I spend time with the sun and the sea, my hair grows so much better, my nails get so much stronger, my skin looks so much better. There's that, but also the salt. As you can see, I've got salt lamps, candle holders there. I've got lots of salt lamps. The salt in the sea allows wounds to heal. It kills bacteria. That's why gargling the salt water is really good for you if you've got a sore throat. We don't always need to reach for pharmaceutical medication. Sometimes we can clear things up really simply. So much actually of the pharmaceutical medication comes from very natural knowledge anyway, and that you don't have to go to a doctor or pay money to access. You know, if you think about Victorian England, and people were sent to the warm climes and to be by the sea if they were ill, this still, this is still very powerful for us. So the swimming in the sea is great for any kind of physical wounds. It's also great for rashes. It's also really good for relaxing muscles, any soreness, any tension, any joint pain. You know, the weightlessness of it allows us to work differently, rather than if running takes its toll on our joints, that sort of thing. And it's really good for any kind of form of infection. It's going to clear that up. If you can't get to the sea, like I talk about this all the time, like having salt baths or salt foot soaking, you know, Epsom salts, it's great for shock. You've also got salt lamps, as I said, like putting those help purify the air. There's salt yoga rooms that you can go to, salt steam, steam. I mean, there's so much salt therapy. It's a technical, you know, term. You can have a Google different ways that you can use salt. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, like the physical. What I'm trying to say really is there is physically science. It's not the science stuff. It's all happening when you get in the sea. It's physically healing you. My final point is about new environments. So we are by nature land dwellers, we live on the land, and in the same way that when we travel, having new experiences, new perspectives, shift the programs that we've got stuck into, and those can be emotional programs like the stress you get around your job. Like when we are in new situations, we liberate ourselves because we've changed the neural pathways that normally just fire off, that get reinforced when we have a habitual way of being. When we are in new environments, we allow ourselves to behave, to think, to do differently. And it's the same when we get into the water, when we get into the sea, or this could be a swimming pool, like when you are no longer walking on land and you are in a different element, that allows you to think, to create differently. And that space is going to really help you feel held, to feel nurtured, to feel cocooned, as well as the expanse, by being in a different environment, especially if you're not able to travel because of, well, any number of reasons. Being able to put yourself in a different experience physically, whether that be with water or getting in the bath if you're having a really stressful day, like just getting into some water is going to help shift and move that for you. And if you can't do any of that, like soaking your feet in a bucket. Okay, the final little caveat, because it's not the ocean, is this is really practical habit that might be really great to start now as the tensions creep up, is foot soaking. So this is your homework if you choose to accept it. Get a bucket or a basin or a bowl of really hot, as hot as you can bear it really, water. Put a big handful of Epsom salts into it, and you could also then start playing around with different types of essential oil. Vetiver is very good for grounding, and you can also get like a whole host of like essential oils already blended into salt at the moment as well. And then when you get your very hot water, you also need a towel, and you want a jug of cold water. You get yourself a chair. This is my foot soaking chair. It's great to do this just before you go to bed. You want to roll up your trousers or whatever you've got on, and put your feet into the hot water. And if it's hot, it's the right kind of hot. It's like, oh, and then within about 30 seconds you've acclimatized. So don't scald yourself, but it's more hot than you would than you would get into a whole bath of. Okay, and ideally face north. And ideally do this for 24 minutes. If you don't have that amount of time, you could go for 7 or 13 minutes. These are all numbers that can carry significance. What I do is I set the alarm on my phone, I turn off all the distractions so that I can just sit there, and then I go into a meditation. If meditation isn't your thing, close your eyes and, I mean, in a way this is a form of meditation, but to trick your mind. But close your eyes and imagine all the stress or all the pain or all the illness in your body going through your body like sand in the egg timer and coming out of your feet into that water. So it's a bit like you become the lotus flower in the muddy pond. So all the mud inside you is moving down into the water. And then just allow yourself to go into a relaxed space. Try and avoid going into what you need to buy at the supermarket tomorrow or whatever it is. Okay, or think about things that you want. Think about your manifestation list. And then when the alarm goes off, you take one foot out and you imagine that literally all that water is mud. So any little drop of mud on that foot, you want to use the cold water to get that off. And then you're going to dry that foot with the towel, and then you want to do the same thing with the other foot. Now, please imagine that the water in the bowl, and try and avoid splashing any, imagine that water is now full of all that negativity that you have got through your system, all that illness or tension or whatever it is, and carry the bowl as gently as you can without getting any on you, because you don't want to get that energy back in your system, and you flush it down the toilet. Please lift the seat so you don't spread it all over the loo seat for the next person who goes there. Flush it away, and then give your hands and give the bucket a rinse, and you will feel amazing. Now, I've spoken about this in another video, but I don't think I gave quite as detailed an explanation about how you do this. And then go to bed. And also, this is great for insomnia, and it's great if you often lie there and worry before you fall asleep. It's a really, really powerful way of resetting your system and getting static out of your system. If you can't earth, if you can't get bare feet on the ground, this is also a really powerful tool to use. Or even if you can, I really, really recommend it. And also all the other points that I've mentioned about how being by the ocean and the power of water for healing you. And you know, you can go, and you may be thinking about moving right now and making a big life change, and you may now consider going to the ocean or going somewhere with a big perspective vista, or you might just want to be getting yourself a water feature off the internet. Anyway, I hope this helped. I hope this contained some information that resonated with you. If it did, I will be so joyful if you could like it, share it, subscribe, hit the bell, and I really, really would like you to write your comments below about what you thought was most helpful. If there's anything that you would like me to cover a video on, because I do that. I have done videos by request. Last week's video on poverty consciousness, so how you feel about your relationship with money, and how you can be internally blocking yourself from receiving more money or having a happier relationship with money. That was last week's video. I'll put a link to that after this. And I really appreciate you being here, so thank you so much for your time, and I will see you soon. Oh, if you would like any more information about how to work with me, the one-to-one work I do, the ceremonies, the weekly meditations, all of that is on the website www.cacaocalling.com. I also send out cacao to all over the world for you to work with, as it's a beautiful, beautiful aid to get you out of your head and more opening up and listening to your heart. And that's what we need right now, and more love, right? More love, more self-care. With that, I send you all the love, and I will see you soon.